Hello and a warm welcome to episode 35 of the Successful Garden Design Show. In this episode we're going to follow on from our previous episode where we looked at how important green is in the garden, often a colour that's completely taken for granted, and I've got some more examples to show you from my recent trip through Portugal where there was an absolutely stunning garden that epitomised everything that we covered in the previous episode. We're also going to take a look at an absolutely fantastic natural swimming pool. It's probably the best I've ever seen. And finally, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of a new course I've been creating that covers how to preserve the food that you grow in your garden to get you through the winter months. If you're frustrated your garden doesn't look as beautiful as it could, even though you've purchased lots of lovely plants, then help is at hand. Plants are not enough. You have to have a good design layout. And when you combine design with the beauty of plants, that's when the magic really happens. It's our mission here at Successful Garden Design to show you how to do it, and it's much easier than you may think. I'm Rachel Matthews and I've been a professional international garden designer for over 25 years, and I teach garden design online. In our last Garden Design Show episode, we looked at the importance of green and how underrated it is as a colour in the garden, and how if you get green structure, so different shapes and shades of green, how important that is and how it links the garden together. And no matter what time of year, if you have a good green structure, it always looks good. So travelling through Portugal from Spain, I came across the beautiful castle gardens in Marval, which I hope that's how you pronounce it, which is near Extremadura in Spain. So it's just on the border there. And as you'd imagine, for that part of the world, it's very arid landscape. So having so much green really brought the whole area to life, and especially with all of the stone that had been used in the castle. If it hadn't been for this garden, it would have looked very bleak indeed, but it actually made the whole area look stunning. And the green, it really showed off the few flowers that they did have there. And, it wouldn't matter what time of year you visited this garden, it's always going to look good. And what this green does, although, the structural formality isn't to everybody's tastes, now you don't have to have straight lines like this. You could have done curves, or there could have been clipped box globes that would have added to the structure, so it doesn't have to be quite as much as this, but this is the extreme example of using green structurally. But you can see how it really shows off all of the flowers, and it gives a wonderful backdrop and backbone to the entire garden, and it provides the design layout for the entire garden. And it's, obviously they're going to have to cut those hedges once, maybe twice a year, but it's pretty low maintenance. And then when all of the other flowering plants are looking a bit messy, it's not going to matter when they finish flowering because that green structure is in place. So it was just the perfect example of what I was talking about in the previous show. So don't underestimate green. So many people just don't give it a second thought when they're designing a garden, but it's such an important colour, and everyone takes it for granted. So the more you can think about it, the different shades and shapes and textures, and get that in as a backbone, and then any flowers that you add on top are the icing on the cake, and your garden will look good all year round. And then, leaving the beautiful castle gardens behind, we headed northbound towards Guarda to the Sierra de Estrella National Park, which is a stunning mountain area that's well worth a visit. And we stayed overnight at a beautiful quinta, and they've got holiday lets and also camping. Now, we stayed in the camping, and I must admit it's one of the places we've been most welcome. Dog was allowed off the lead, and it was just a beautiful location. And there they had an amazing natural swimming pool. Now, normally when people have a natural swimming pool, it looks like a pond, and it's got a lot of wildlife in it, and it's not, it does look like you're swimming in a pond. So I think they're great, but they've never been inviting. Whereas this one, I thought they'd done a really good job because they've tried a lot with the landscaping and this area, communal area that everyone could use, whether you're in the holiday lets or the campsite. It was just beautiful, and it was very relaxing, lovely area, and the pool actually looked good and inviting. It's just a shame the weather wasn't a bit better. Otherwise, I'd have been in there like a shot. But it was really well done, and I love the way they've managed to get the the functionality of all of the reeds and plants here that do the drainage and keep the water relatively clean, and still have it look very appetizing and nice and not like basically a pond that you're swimming in. So this one's definitely one of the better ones I've seen. So I hope that inspires you if you're planning on a natural swimming pool. So wasn't that an absolutely gorgeous swimming pool? It's a shame it was too cold for me to actually take a dip at the time I was there. It's typical, I picked the one bad week that they've had all summer. But anyway, moving on, I'm now going to show you a quick sneak peek of a part of a new course I've been creating. So you may remember I created this course back in December to show people how they can create an attractive food producing garden and how they can adjust any design that they've already got to grow lots of food. And now now it's the summertime, I'm learning how to preserve that food so that it lasts through the winter, because I have a feeling we could be in for some quite tough times ahead. So I think it's important that we take advantage of the glut in the summer like our ancestors used to and learn those old techniques for preserving food. So here's an excerpt from the first video in the series. I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible because of my dislike of cooking, and I'm going to go through lots of different methods of food preservation. I think it's going to be a necessity, unfortunately, over the coming years. It's been a real shock to the system getting back to England and seeing in the middle of the summer so many empty shelves, and we've not got a lockdown right now, and no doubt there'll be one coming this winter. One can only but imagine what will happen if there is another lockdown, or anything else for that matter. And even if there aren't lockdowns, I think there could be quite high inflation, and that's going to hit food prices massively. So preserving food now in the summer months while it's readily available and relatively affordable seems to make a lot of sense, and it's what our ancestors used to do. We've just got lazy recent years. So as I'm a novice, I'm starting very simply with things that are relatively easy, and then I'm going to progress to doing things that are a bit more complicated once I've got the basics under my belt. So let's get started with some apples. So we have a glut of apples that have not been eaten. And the reason they've not been eaten is because they really don't taste that nice. They're really disappointing. They're sort of pithy and just yuck, and then not that flavoursome, not that sweet, and then as soon as they do get slightly sweet, the wasps just eat them all. But fortunately, when they're cooked, they do actually have a really nice flavour. So let's see if we can make good use of the remaining crop. So I'm going to use my father's magic gadget to peel and core the apples. Now, I'm not bothering to clean out these little bits. I'll do that with whatever the machine leaves behind. So we just push that back a bit and then push the apple on. And then, now ideally you need like a granite worktop for this to stick to. It doesn't stick particularly well with wood. So if I turn it this way, you can see it in action a little better. Okay, and pull that off, and now I'll clean up the little bits that need cleaning. So today I'm going to be doing a mix of apple chutney and apple sauce. So the unripest of the apples I'm going to put into the chutney. Okay, so we've got 9 apples cored here, and that's approximately 2 pounds of apples. So for my first recipe, I'm going to go to this book, and we're going to do an apple chutney. And my other favourite time-saving device when you haven't got masses of things to process, so you don't want to get the food processor out, is just this very simple hand processor. That is great for small amounts. Et voila, chopped onion. So, put that in. 4 cups apple cider vinegar. That's a lot. That is a lot. I think I'm going to add some water instead. 4 cups of brown sugar. Again, that's a lot. I'm not going to add quite that amount. I've got some very brown sugar here. Unrefined. There's about just under 3 there. I'm going to try that and see how it tastes. That's really nice. Now, my mustard seed I've left in Spain, so I'll just have to have mustard. 3 tablespoons. There we go. Well, no joy on the allspice, but I have at least found the ginger. Now, I meant to have 2 tablespoons of dried ginger, but there's several people in my family that really don't like it, so I'm going to put 1 in. And no, you can't use Chinese 5 spice instead of allspice. The nearest is nutmeg, so if the local shop haven't got any allspice, nutmeg it will have to be. So anyway, I'm going to let that simmer and reduce down for approximately an hour. So while the apples are cooking down, I've just been sterilising the jars at 160 degrees for approximately 20 minutes. So I've just turned this down. After about 15 minutes it was starting to boil over, so you can see there's plenty of liquid in. The other thing, I just realised I haven't got the raisins, so they need to go in as well, quite a lot. So in the large jam pan on the left, that's just apples with a little bit of water, and that's boiling, bringing it to boil. Then I added the remainder of that packet of brown sugar. And then once that's cooked down for approximately half an hour, maybe a bit longer, 45 minutes, then I take it off the heat, let it cool a bit, and then I just add some ascorbic acid or vitamin C as an additional preservative. Now you don't have to do that, I just like to do that to get a bit more nutrition in, and also to make sure it preserves a little bit better, because a lot of vitamin C will be destroyed with the cooking process. So just by putting it back in, it just makes it a little bit healthier, and it helps with the preserving process. But as I say, you don't want to add too much because it's quite acidic. Then I just spoon it into the jars and turn them upside down. That's what I read in a book. I don't know why. I'm assuming because perhaps it makes it seal better. And then going back to the chutney, this is how it reduced down. So you may remember it was virtually at the top when I started out. Now, I did find that even though I used less vinegar than in the recipe, it was too strong. And again, with the sugar, it was too sweet for me. So I think in future, for my tastes, I would put in 2 cups of vinegar and 2 cups of sugar would be enough for me. But I have been told that chutney matures over time and the flavour improves, but that particular brand of apple cider vinegar that I brought back from Italy, it was verging on alcoholic. It was so strong. So perhaps with a lighter vinegar, then the 4 cups would be necessary, but have a play around. But one thing that's really important to bear in mind is it's the acidity and the sweetness that stops the bacteria growing. So it is quite vital. So I'm going to try and find information on how you know whether you've got enough sweetness and enough acidity in something, because as I say, for my tastes, that was just too much. And do share any chutney recipes or other recipes that you may have in the comments below. I look forward to trying them. And let me know how you get on with this one. So if you'd like to gain access to the Food Garden Formula course, it comes free with any of our garden design courses. The Small Garden Formula, the Fast Track Garden Design Formula, and the Great Garden Formula, which is our professional course. So I hope this episode has inspired you to start preserving some of the wonderful food we have in the summer to get you through those winter months. Now, coming up in future garden design shows, I'm going to be designing a food and medicine garden from scratch, and hopefully building it as well. So that's coming up over the next few months. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.